This program is presented by University of California Television. Like what you learn? Visit our website or follow us on Facebook and Twitter to keep up with the latest UCTV programs. Also, make sure to check out and subscribe to our YouTube original channel, UCTV Prime, available only on YouTube.
Welcome to the Pollock Theater. I'm your host, Matt Ryan. Script to Screen is brought to you by the Department of Film and Media Studies, the carsey-wolf Center. My partner, Joe Palladino, who's back there. And a special shout out to all these lovely interns you see on our cameras right now. Pollock Theater interns help produce this event. It's part of their training. So we're very, very proud that this is the launch of our second season of Script to Screen, so we're proud Tom has come to join us. So let's talk a little about Tom. Tom won an Oscar for this film, of course.
Thank you.
He lived out his fantasy as shrinking small children while writing Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He explored Bill Murray's psyche in What About Bob? He also wrote and directed 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag. So please give Tom a warm welcome. Tom Schulman.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So we're going to dive right into your psyche, your writer's psyche, with a hardball question.
Okay.
Where do you keep your Oscar, and what do you polish it with?
I keep it up on a shelf, and I never polish it. So it's solid gold. It doesn't need polishing.
So how many years from the time you finished, or how much time before you finished the script and moved to, the studio said, "Ooh, we like that"?
Well, they didn't like it for a long time. So I wrote it in '85, and they started liking it in '87, and then liked it enough to make it in '88, and so forth. So.
And was there what? I'm sorry.
Yeah, 4 years, felt like a lifetime back then. But I think it's a lot of luck just to get it made it all. But 4 years pretty quick.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Did the studio have any reaction to the suicide theme, or was it the character?
The first meeting I had with the studio executive, she said it's we really loved it here, all the vice presidents and so forth, but we won't even give it to the studio head because he'll pass, and we think you should consider turning it into a dance movie. Get rid of the point. And they said we even thought of a title, The Sultans of Strut. I said, okay, and so just think about that, and you could use a lot of the same stuff. And so I just kind of scratched my head and went home and thought, okay. And maybe that was because the movie Fame had just come out and done well. Maybe that might have been the reason, but so.
So as a writer, you would be a little, I don't want to see that. They're not destroying my story.
Yeah, I think, and then a couple of years later, that same studio bought it. So, yeah. So.
Was that part?
Go
sometimes
figure.
The studios change, or
It was the same administration, same people,
administration,
same
right.
people, same executive sitting in the room when I got there, saying, "Oh, we loved this so much. We're so glad they bought it." Okay, thank you. So.
One of my favorite directors has been Peter Weir. Is anybody a Peter Weir fan?
Mine too. Yeah.
I'll just run through the title so some of the students might not know. Gallipoli, starring Mel Gibson. Year Living Dangerously. Witness with Harrison Ford, and The Truman Show, which is one of my What was it like working with Peter?
Oh, he was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Great guy. Fun to work with. Incredibly relaxed. Would cook dinner for a lot of us after each day's shoot, and just fun, really. And played music on the set. People would kind of dance around to music. Then the music would turn off and we'd shoot a shot. It was a strangely kind of miraculous kind of thing. It was like the school of miracle directing. He never talked to the actors, or rarely talked to the actors. When he did, he would just have little gems of things to say. So it was, I was there also to learn how to direct. It was hard because you just go, what is he doing? He's, but he just and has a kind of painter's vision of the world. We'd be walking down the street, and he'd go, "Oh my God, look at the shadow of that tree on the sidewalk." That kind of eye for things.
And backstage in the green room, we were talking a little, and you mentioned there was a few other directors, though.
Yeah, there were. They should go nameless, I think.
No, but was it just maybe the first two didn't connect with the story?
No, they connected, but the first one had problems from the studio's perspective. The studio wanted Robin Williams, and they wouldn't. Robin wouldn't say no, but he wouldn't say yes to working with that director. In fact, we prepped the movie, built the sets. It was going to be shot outside of Atlanta, and Robin just didn't show up for the first day. He never said he would, but Disney kept trying to pressure him by, moving forward. And after the first day, he didn't show up. They canceled the production, burned the sets. We actually have dailies of the sets burning. And I thought, well, that's the end of that. And then another director came in, and he got in an argument with the studio over the start date, so they took it away from him. And Peter, fortunately for me, Peter was available and came in and did it. So.
Well, now the scenes in the cave, actually one of my most fascinating scenes, because from a director's standpoint, it's hard to do that. Was there any difficulty making those scenes? Because I thought they were one of the most powerful in the movie.
Hard to do dramatically?
Like the boys dramatically and visually, because they're in a cave in a tight spot. But
yeah. The cave we built the cave, so it was on the set. And, Peter worried a lot about that. I remember walking into the set one day because there was a little hole at the top of the cave for the smoke to go out. And they had the camera shooting down into the cave that way with a big wide-angle lens, and you could sort of see the boys. And just as we were getting ready to shoot, Peter went, "What am I doing? This is like a film school shot. Get rid of that." So we moved the camera back down, and he just said, "It's a tight spot. We'll just shoot it normally, and that's the way we'll do it." And it was... So for him, it was effortless somehow. Yeah.
You talked a little about Robin Williams. So he was a big selling point to the studio to go with the movie?
Yeah, the first day we met, Jeff Katzenberg, who ran Disney at the time, said, we think Robin Williams, who we have in Good Morning Vietnam, would be the right guy for this. So, and I had seen Robin do improv in L.A. way back before Mork and Mindy and so forth. So from the comedic side of it, I thought, great choice. He wasn't so sure about the dramatic, what he was going to do. He'd actually been in a movie called Seize the Day on PBS, which was pretty somber affair. So I was worried that when he gets dramatic, it's going to get very precious and dark. But that didn't happen. So
did you have to, when Robin got bored, did you have to rewrite the script? Did you have to tell him to stop talking like Mork from Mork?
No.
So he...
If anything, Robin the first day, I think, was too tight. He was too bound up in the script. And Peter said, let's just do an improv. Just come in. What would you like to teach the class? And Robin's going, I don't know. He said, Robin said, well, maybe some Shakespeare. So we shot it, and that's where we got the improv on the scene with John Wayne and so forth, doing Macbeth. So, and once Robin realized, oh yeah, I'm teaching. That's even if the students aren't speaking back, it's a dialogue. I'm looking at them. They're giving back to me. He got it right away, and it just loosened him up, and that was the only thing we had to do to sort of get him to connect to the material.
And now I found one of the most powerful scenes for me was when Robin took the students to look at the wall of all the old people that all the students are now gone.
Yeah.
Seize the Day, and it's not all it's his dialogue, but their facial expressions. Was that scene early in the script? Did you kind of like a center point scene?
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's sort of the kickoff. Originally, there was a scene in the classroom where he comes in and does the "Oh, Captain, my Captain." He jumps on a desk right away, and we shot it, and both Peter and I just thought, God, this doesn't work. It's just too much. And the studio, we went back to his trailer and just thought, well, what are we going to do? And I thought, just have him walk out, in and out. And next day, we got a call from the studios. Oh, we love this thing of him jumping on the desk. And we said, no, we're getting rid of that. We're shooting something else. And so the arguments began. But fortunately, Peter was just one of those guys that said, "I'm doing it my way, and if you don't like it, fire me." So.
And you still got the death scene.
Yeah, got the death. Well, that scene was would have been the second death scene. So one too many, I think. So.
Yeah, the threes. So we'll talk about Robert Shaw and Leonard's character.
Yeah.
Neil, we mentioned. So you knew his fate from the beginning. Was that the kind of the centerpiece?
When I was writing it, I knew, what was going to happen. And then I remember when we were shooting, as we were getting ready to shoot it, Peter Weir said to me, I had one conversation with Ingmar Bergman in my life, and Bergman just coincidentally said to me, "If you ever kill off your main character, the audience will hate you." So I said, "Oh, God." I said, "Well, we're killing off our main character." And Peter goes, "I know, I'm terrified." So I was too after that. But I don't know. And so every time I watch the movie, I kind of expect the audience to just walk out at that point.
Yeah, for me, the heartbreaking scene, obviously, is the suicide, but the scene where Robin Williams says, "You have to talk to your dad."
Yeah.
And he's not going to.
Yeah.
And that was, for me, the most dramatic, painful, because you kind of knew what the fate was, but you should please talk to your dad.
Yeah.
Is that something, was that early on, too? You had that scene in there structurally? And
what you saw is pretty much the structure of the movie from the get-go. And, we made the cut, that 3-page cut, and then, lots of little things in between, but it was interesting because after the studio bought the script, actually sold this script and another script the same day, and which sort of and they bought it at midnight, and my agent called me at midnight and said they just bought Dead Poets Society, and I said, "Oh my God, well what do they want to do? What's their take on it?" And he said, you don't get to ask that question. You'll find out after when you get there in the meeting with them. And I said, "Well, it's my baby. I've got it." He said, "It's too bad. I've already closed the deal." So about 3 days later, I got a big packet of notes in the mail from them. It was about 40 pages, starting with the obligatory, "We really love this project," but and the teacher is not the main character of this movie. It's an ensemble, and we don't want to do an ensemble. So let's rejigger this thing. Let's start with the teacher back when he's in school, do about half the movie with him in school, and then we'll move to the second half, and let's get rid of most of these boys and just, we'll put a love interest in for the Robin Williams character and so forth. And I literally just, sweat started pouring off of me. And a couple of days later, we got the meeting at the studio and walked in, and Jeff Katzenberg was sitting at his desk, and the executives were all sitting in the little on the couch, and Jeff was reading through the notes, and I sat down, and he looked over and said, "Who did the notes, guys?" And they all said, "Well, they're kind of rough, but we did them as a team." And he said, "You're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, aren't you?" And he went, "Let's just make the movie." And we sat down and started talking about casting, and that is the only time that's ever happened to me, and I felt like just kissing his feet. But
we're going to talk about Ethan Hawke's storyline soon, but I wanted Josh Charles first. Mm-hmm. That was amazing. I think it was because we knew it was a good romance.
Yeah,
you can go a little about the evolution of that and your approach to his story arc.
When I wrote the script, I sort of peopled the story with people that I knew, all at different times in my life. And Josh was based on a kid I knew at college who was just crazy about this girl, Chris, and just went to in ridiculous lengths to woo her, and actually failed and walked out of our dorm, said, "Guys, I'll send you a note where to send my stuff," stuck out his thumb, never came back. So, but anyway, he was the inspiration for that character and all the sort of antic stuff he did to try to win her.
It was good. It was a nice way of him seizing the day.
Yeah,
I knew that little off because it was the heavy material.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we have a little special present. As you notice, if you got your programs, Tom was wonderful enough to let us look at 2 pages of his script.
Sounds stingy at this point, doesn't it?
No, it's one of my favorite scenes. So we're actually going to do a little scene reading with our interns. So we can, and we're going to break down the scene because I think it is one of the best scenes I've ever read. So I'm going to introduce Kim Denny, who will be reading the stage direction. Cool. Reading Mork from Robin Williams' character, Chase Logan. And the challenging role played by Ethan Hawke will be read by Stephen Brenna.
Look at Mr. Keating in such agony. Step up, lad, and let's put you out of your misery.
All eyes are on Todd. He's dying inside. He stands and walks slowly to the front of the class like a condemned man on his way to his execution.
Todd, have you prepared your poem?
Todd shakes his head no.
Mr. Anderson believes that everything he has inside of him is worthless and embarrassing. Correct, Todd? Isn't that your fear?
Todd nods jerkedly yes.
Then today you will see that what is inside of you is worth a great deal.
Keating strides to the blackboard. Rapidly he writes, I sound my barbaric yelp over the rooftops of the world, Walt Whitman.
A yawp, for those who don't know, is a loud cry or yell. Todd, I would like you to give us a demonstration of a barbaric yawp.
A yawp.
A barbaric yawp.
Keating pauses, then suddenly moves fiercely at Todd.
Good God, boy, yell.
Yawp.
Again, louder.
Yawp.
Louder.
Yawp.
All right, very good. There's a barbarian in there after all.
Keating claps. The class claps too. Todd, red-faced, swells a bit.
Todd, there's a picture of Whitman over the door. What does he remind you of? Quickly, Anderson, don't think about it.
A madman.
A madman. Perhaps he was. What kind of madman? Don't think, answer.
Crazy madman.
Use your imagination. First thing that pops to your mind, even if it's gibberish.
Sweaty-toothed madman.
Now there's this poet speaking. Close your eyes and think of the picture. Describe what you see. Now.
I close my eyes. His image floats beside me.
A sweaty-toothed madman.
A sweaty-toothed madman with a stare that pounds my brain.
Excellent. Have him act. Give it rhythm.
His hands reach out and choke me. All the time he mumbles slowly. Truth. Truth is like a blanket that always leaves your feet cold.
This brings chuckles from the class. This angers Todd.
To hell with them. More about the blanket.
Todd opens his eyes and addresses the class in defiant cadence.
Stretch it, pull it. It will never cover any of us. Kick at it, beat at it. It will never be enough.
Don't stop.
From the moment we enter crying to the moment we leave dying, it will cover your head as you wail and cry and scream.
Todd stands still for a long time. Both he and the students have felt the magic of what has just taken place. Neil starts applauding. Others join in. Todd swells, and for the first time, there is a hint of confidence in him. The applause stops. Keating walks to Todd.
Don't forget this.
How many aspiring writers are in this room? You write a scene like that, you're going to sell a screenplay. Because if you look at the beginning, in two pages, Ethan Hawke's character goes from a condemned man terrified to feeling the magic in the room. Mm-hmm. So the total power shift. Can you talk a little about his character development and kind of the inspiration behind?
Yeah, I mean, the Ethan Hawke character was for me the main character of the movie. You know, this is really his journey. It's about his growth as a character, and I guess given that I was a guy who was terrified to stand up and speak at school. I mean, I had teachers who wouldn't even call on me in class because I was so pathetic. They just let me go. So I think in some sense, this was for me writing about what I would hope would have been at the time my journey from that shy guy to someone who could do something like this. So. But it's hard because you're basically trying to focus on a character who doesn't say much and is sort of dramatically not part of the action, which I think is why it evolved as a sort of an ensemble piece, because you can't do a whole movie about someone who can barely talk, or at least I couldn't. So the beginning of the movie establishes his shyness, and then slowly we're watching him try to do what his friends are doing, which is sort of take some instruction from Mr. Keating, but he can't do it, and here he's finally forced to. And then he kind of goes back into his shell again, and at the end he gets to be the one that stands up.
The first one to stand up. And really, you notice that the scene is really the shift between him and Robert Sean Leonard happens, because he starts not standing up to his dad, not listening to Mr. Keating. So that was really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So you said it was a little about you.
Yeah. I think all scripts are really about you're writing about yourself one way or the other.
Is it difficult to keep it objective if it's a character about you, or
Not really, because once you sort of get into the fiction of it, you're just dealing with the character. You've hopefully named him something else, and it's.
Did you have a Jack Keating in your life?
I had two, and really the inspiration for this movie was sort of my love of those two teachers. One was a guy named Sam Pickering, who was my sophomore in high school English teacher. Another was Harold Clurman, who was a theater director who I had lucky enough to study with in acting and directing. So
we're going to go back to your origins, your early days. When you were developing your craft, how did you support yourself and not starve?
I got lucky. When I started at this place called the Actors and Directors Lab, where this guy Harold Clurman was a sometimes teacher, the first day there, one of the students who was a bit older than the rest of us walked in and said, "I just got a 3-year contract to make educational films. I need a crew. Anybody done that?" And I had, so I raised my hand and said, "Well, come to my office tomorrow and for an interview." So I went there, and he hired me, and it was great because we would make about a 10 or 12-minute educational film in 3 weeks and then have 2 weeks off. So I had 2 weeks off out of every 5 to write. Yeah, I think he ended up with almost 9 years of contracts to do that. So it was a great job for a writer.
So was your family supportive of your going the writing career, or thought you should go into like welding or something?
Reluctantly supportive, terrified, really. And because at a certain point, it's too late to go to law school or medical school or any of that. And, and in Hollywood, you're sort of in or out. And so for a long time I was out, and my parents were going, "What's going on? There's no, these horror films you're writing and these options and so forth are not going to sustain you, and eventually you're going to have to stop making these educational films." So, and in some way not having a backup might have been a good thing, because it just forced me into a kind of, mode where I was just writing all the time.
So how many scripts did you write before you sold your first script?
Dead Poet Society, I think, was my 5th script, and then I wrote, I think my 7th script was a thing called Love at Second Sight, which sold the same day as this. It sold first that day, and so 4. This was the 5th.
And so studio, you mentioned a little about, the Dead Poets. Do you ever have to battle studios when your scripts, or fight back for the studio, or wish you could have fought back more and protected one of your stories? And
you're fighting all the time. And, as I said, I was shy, so I think from my perspective, a writer was great, because I thought I'll just write a script, put my, and send it in, and I'll never have to go in and have a meeting. I'll never have to, and what a joke that was. But so you have to go in, and, you're going to have 1,000 people read your script at a studio before they make it, and you're going to have to defend everything you did in there, from somebody. So you better know why you did it, or figure it out, and fight for what you believe in. And they talk about the process being sort of a death of 1,000 cuts, which I think happens. Oh, just take out this little scene, just do that, and pretty soon you don't even remember why you wrote it or why they're making it. So I think in the early days I fought for everything, and I kind of wish that I had kept doing that. People kept saying to me, you should just choose your battles, but I actually don't believe that. I think if you have to, if they're right, you change. But and you should be open to that, because you get a lot of great ideas from everywhere. But I think that the stuff you believe in, it's better to go down fighting and let somebody else ruin it than do it yourself.
Are you a big fan of outlining or backstories, or what is your?
I'm not a fan of it, but I do it. It's I'd rather not. I'd rather just dictate the script and be done. But no, I do I generally take a lot of notes, just put them in a computer file. Eventually, I sort of slice them up. They're like cards, except that I'll have 150 pages of them. And then I put them in a big stack, and I look at the first one and go, oh, this is in part of the first of the movie. This one goes in the middle, etc. And then I've got 3 piles, which are the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And then I start figuring out what's the beginning and so forth. And pretty soon the entire floor of the room is covered with these strips. And while I'm moving them around, I get other ideas and I'll put them in. And then I just paste them onto pages of, or scotch tape them onto pages into a booklet. And essentially it's done at that point. I mean, it's just go through. It's like automatic writing. It's written itself. So it's kind of a relaxing way to do it for me.
Well, I'd like to talk about an autobiography script you wrote, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
So what was the evolution of that?
That was a rewrite.
Rewrite.
Yeah. It was actually originally going to be a drama called, and they were going to do all the special effects sort of analog. You know, there was going to be a guy in a bee suit. There was going to be another person in an ant suit, and Disney was very skeptical about that. So they made the director and crew shoot that, and when they saw it, they fired everybody: the writer, the director, the whole thing. At which point, they then realized that they had Rick Moranis for one more week, and he could walk off the picture. So, and Rick was saying, "I want it to be a comedy." So they said, "Okay, you got a week. Turn this into a comedy." So, yeah. Thank you very much.
Did you enjoy writing comedy, or was it kind of fun?
This thing, Love at Second Sight, that I had sold was a comedy. So I enjoyed it. I mean, it's doing that in a week was not the most enjoyable thing in my life. I mean, I was so nervous. My dog was throwing up. It was, but it was kind of fun. You're pressed to the wall, and you do the best you can.
And you got a Disney ride.
Huh?
You got a Disney ride out of it.
Yeah. So that's right.
So is there any other aspects of filmmaking that interest you other than writing? Like if you want to get producing and directing?
I mean, I tried my hand at directing. I directed a movie called Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag, looking to try it again, and it was a pretty nightmarish experience because of Joe Pesci. But the guy that he plays in Goodfellas, that crazy, psychotic guy, and the same guy that he plays in Casino, that's him. And so you bring that to a movie shoot, and it makes life really interesting. So, but hopefully, he won't be on my next movie, so maybe it'll be a better experience.
So you like to you like to direct another film?
I'd like to, yeah.
Your own script or something?
Yeah. So.
Well, we always end our evening with a special question. So, can you describe, since we're the awesome Pollock Theater, can you describe a movie theater experience you had as a child that inspired you, or something, a fond memory of going to the movies?
Fond memories. I mean, the most dramatic memory I have is seeing a movie called Horrors of the Black Museum, which started with a woman receiving a gift of binoculars and going, "Oh, how sweet, Charlie sent me binoculars." And she goes to look out the window and twists the binoculars, and when she pulls them out, these two nails have shot out of the binoculars into her eyes, and her friend's standing there going, "Ah!" That was the beginning of the movie. That had an effect on me. So, yeah. Anyway.
That was
You asked the question.
I asked the question. That was my fault. I set that one
Okay.
up. Well, it's not the end of you, so I'd like to thank Tom Schulman for coming. That's so wonderful. Thank you so much. Again, thanks to these wonderful Pollock Theater interns who you can see are behind the cameras and shot this and produced this event. We will return on November 29th with 10 Things I Hate About You with Kirsten Smith and Karen McCullough Lutz, the writers of that movie and Legally Blonde. So they're coming, and yes, they are crazy. So we hope to see you at other future Pollock Theater events. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.